added with the Powerball stakes being so high and the belief that maybe I'll just buy the right ticket so I can overspend a little on that too, January's going to come and all the bills will be here and the money will be gone unless we do a pretty good job of sticking to a financial plan or a family budget.
There is a lot of volume here with people. It's the #1 tourist attraction in the state of Minnesota. We also think that we can do a very good business there.
The investigation says 2 scientists lent the university's credibility to help promote a fish farm project before feasibility studies were complete. Using abandoned Iron Range mine pits as a controlled fish farm was the idea, but pollution problems has stopped the project short. The pollution comes from uneaten fish food and fish feces, and that polluted water may be seeping into the drinking water supply. The report also says the farm owes over $700,000 in loans due in mid-1994. The mayor of Chisholm, Steve Bartek, told News 6 over a third of the money owed came from Chisholm and the township of Balkan. The president of Minnesota Aqua Farms, Bruce Cady, refused to go on camera, but he did tell us on the phone this morning he denounces the newspaper article. He says he finds it sensationalistic and grossly distorted.
This is in violation of federal law, the Federal Clean Water Act.
Peter Grayton is a member of Concerned Citizens for Clean Water. He lived in Chisholm for over 40 years. He says his drinking water is being affected by the farm.
Before fish farming, the water was, well, it was considered pure, pristine. And now it tastes very bad. It's been degraded.
Cady says the farm's process does not affect human health, just aesthetics. He also says the visible effects are reversible, a fact backed by the Duluth Natural Resources Research Institute. However, the same study found fish farming increased pollutants and reduced oxygen levels. In Chisholm, Chip Wallace, News 6.
Well, I think that he saw when he was very young what I was doing, and I think he liked it, and I think it'll end up being... it's a very interesting job. It's a very exciting job. It's a very rewarding job. So I leave with a lot of heartache.
Yeah, the ultrasound that they gave me right when I found out I was pregnant did say New Year's Day for the due date, but I figured I'd go late, so I didn't really expect to be here.
He doesn't know what this is all about. He's just happy.
Well, there's a lot of cars in the ditch. People have just left them and went home. And probably we won't get to pull them out until this stuff clears off.
Anything you people can do, if you're pretty much paralyzed too, I would think.
There's not much we can do. We suffer.
It's been a long haul, and we're farther than a lot of people thought we would be, and we are survival. And the reason we are is because we have the membership behind us and the solidarity, and the workers did everything we asked them to do for us, and that's why we ended up coming out with this type of contract. We come to a tentative agreement. Now we have to go back and have some explanation meetings, and then we explain it to the membership, and then we'll have a mail ballot, and then upon ratification it'll take effect as of midnight or first shift.
And then, of course, the start itself at 4 o'clock this afternoon after a very special singing.
Until the defense lawyer can get all the reports and we have a chance to talk with him, we haven't made a decision to impanel a grand jury on the case.
You get to assess your values out there, what's really important.
When they're working good, you don't have time to think about anything but watching what you've put together that's in front of you. It's really hard to put in words.
Indescribable feelings and emotions surrounding the challenge and accomplishment is what drives veteran mushers like Jamie Nelson and Frank Teasley. Both are well versed in this marriage between man, dog, and Mother Nature. Teasley, although new to the bear grease, has 6 years in the Iditarod under his belt. Nelson is not only a charter member of this marathon, she won it back in 1988.
So everything I do is me, myself, and I, and so if it don't work, it's me that's the cause of it.
You gotta like being with yourself. You got a lot of time to think out there. In a race situation like this, especially with this sleep deprivation that goes on, it's kind of an emotional roller coaster.
Rest and relaxation for the mushers is only half the story at any given rest point. The force that pulls the sled needs attention as well, and that's where the handlers come into play.
Okay, I'm salving the dog's feet with an anti-irritant, astringent, antiseptic. It's kind of like chapstick for their feet.
First thing I do is I love the dogs. Second is I love to care for them to make sure that they're happy and well fed, and I respect their stamina and their work attitude.
By now, most of the mushers have reached the turnaround point at Grand Portage and are headed back south. The current leader, Doug Sweenley, is hoping to cross the finish line in Lester Park this Thursday. Reporting from Grand Portage, Chip Wallace, News 6. Over 300 experts in the business of medicine listen to proponents of merging Medicaid with managed health care. Robert Hurley, an assistant professor at the University of Virginia, says combining health care for the poor with a large medical network has both good and bad aspects.
In other instances, it is true that Medicaid beneficiaries are asked to join health maintenance organizations which may or may not include the physicians that they are currently participating in. And in that case, they do lose some of their freedom of choice to go to any physician.
One of the biggest challenges proponents of Medicaid face is convincing future physicians to accept Medicaid patients. Historically, tax-supported programs such as Medicaid don't pay as well as private insurance companies do.
I think we're going to see more and more physicians opting into managed care arrangements that give them perhaps some reduction in their overall income. But I think they're going to opt for the conditions of work, the ability to have a more predictable practice.
Most physicians don't go into medicine for money.
Pathologist Dr. Tom Stoley is a past president of the Minnesota Medical Association. He says equalizing medical costs is a good idea.
I think what I'm going to tell doctors, and I tell them right now up at UMD, is that the leadership of the Medical Association is working to try to equilibrate these payments.
Neither UMD or St. Scholastica medical students were invited to today's seminar. When asked why, officials said it was an oversight, something they promised to rectify next time. In Duluth, Chip Wallace, News 6.
Yeah, we've had to keep rotating the men there because it's getting too cold there, so I'm sitting in the ambulance and the rescue rigs.
Always a possibility, always. You know, we don't rule that out until we've got a definite cause, and then sometimes that's difficult to do in these cases.
Last year, 1992, we haven't seen 1993, they say over $4.5 million unaccounted for. Just, they minus it out. They say it's gone. And we don't know what happened to it. We just know that there's $4.5 million missing. And everybody shrugs and says, well, that's the way it is when you're in the paper pull tab business. Well, it doesn't have to be that way.
You could probably back your pickup truck to one of these service centers
and buy steel from us directly. They began buying coal in a competitive market. Opposed to the contracts up here with the steel workers. And I think as a corporate citizen, through attrition, now that we come to
There was a document that was written last spring that is the first draft of Vision 2000.
That's
All
okay.
right.
That's all right.
But if you get that, take it.
For them to fund it. Frankly, it's a major hurdle to get the central administration to make that request because they have not been overly enthusiastic about UMD growth.
Still in the process.
You know, I've always said that Greg Fox could find something good to say about Adolf Eichmann. Yeah, yeah, and he gives him the benefit of the doubt when he knows as well as I do.
Traveling up Highway 61 this morning from Duluth was actually not too bad. The roads were a bit slick, but visibility was good, all the way to Gooseberry Falls. But travel up the road just 3 miles and visibility turns to absolutely zero.
You can't see anything, obviously, as you guys are experiencing.
What are you going to do now?
We're just going to hang tight.
Some of those who didn't pull off the road ended up running off the road into ditches and into snowbanks. Semis were stuck, four-wheel drives were stuck, even we were stuck.
There's a lot of cars in the ditch.
Back in 1991, the megastorm dumped over 30 inches of snow throughout our area. This storm already has dumped 40 inches in places like Elgin City and Finland, and they're predicting more for tonight. Up the North Shore, Ted Rollins, News 6.
Until we change where we can reward people for working, not penalize them for working, then we'll have honest reform.
As Director of Social Services, Jim Hubert knows that the present system of welfare makes its recipients dependent and discourages them from moving up and out.
You know, if you take a part-time job at a fast food place as an example, which would be good for your self-esteem, you're going to get penalized on your public assistance grant, and more importantly, you're going to lose something like medical assistance.
So St. Louis County is preparing to revamp its welfare system and looks to the Minnesota Family Investment Plan as a model. These caseworkers would assist their clients in getting into work and education programs, and after a set time, 2 years is most often mentioned, the clients would then be taken off the public assistance rolls.
There are going to be some people that we're probably going to have to cover forever. You know, because our ethic, our Judeo-Christian ethic, or our American humanist ethic, or however you want to look at it, doesn't allow for us to put them out.
But for those able to work, the message seems clear. Expect that St. Louis County is serious about breaking the pattern of welfare assistance. In Duluth, Duke Skorich, News 6.
The attack on Nancy Kerrigan shocked the world, but perhaps the hardest hit the world of figure skating. How could competition between two idolized skaters reach this level? Here in the Northland, more than 500 young skaters are in Duluth this weekend for the Northwood Invitational. And as you can imagine, the Kerrigan-Harding connection is the topic of conversation.
I like Nancy Kerrigan and I like Tanya Harding because Tanya Harding was my idol when I was 4, 5, and 6. I think that Tanya Harding had something to do with it.
I think it's pretty bad for the reputation of ice skating.
10-year-old Jennifer Cruz is a young St. Cloud skater with big talent and big dreams. Dreams which began the moment her father first helped her on the ice.
We got in basics and we went through the levels and just came here. I just kept with it because I loved it, and I think it's a beautiful sport and it's really fun to do.
And that's exactly the attitude towards skating Jennifer's parents want her to keep. While her mother acknowledges the sport is competitive, she says winning isn't everything.
Our goal for her is to just be the best that she can be, and the competitions are basically there for exposure and for her to try it in front of a crowd. But she's not there to always be the top, just to be the best that she can be at anything.
But the fact is, figure skating has become a highly competitive sport with high stakes. And with thousands of young skaters idolizing both Harding and Kerrigan, the damage is done. And it may be some time before the world of figure skating can return to normal.
You know, I know at any level that there's competitiveness and that you may wish something on, you hear people talk bad and things like that, but I've never personally seen it happen. And it's really a bad situation to go on in any sport.
Probably have to start putting your stand-ups on the next tape.
We get 4 people on a set of 2x4s and race them approximately 100 feet.
The planks down on the ground. Has anybody ever noticed that? You're lying on the floor doing something, cold air down there? Oh, boy. Hey, look up on top of that mountain, there's snow. So it's got to be colder. Super D has climbed the mountain here. Actually, he's flown up. This is his gate. Let me see what we're actually go to the back. I don't have my glasses on, but you're wearing a shirt with writing on it. Looks like a hockey jersey, but I could be wrong.
Richard Floyd Little admits brutally murdering his ex-girlfriend, Luella Letourneau. He later led police to her body as part of a plea bargain which could have Little back on the streets in 18 years. But the family of Letourneau says that punishment is not enough.
Well, I don't ever want to see him walk the streets again. This is, you hear about things like this, but you never expect it to happen in your life.
Should murderers and rapists ever be paroled? Most victims and the families of victims say no. But with violent crime on the rise, is it realistic to keep these criminals behind bars for life? Some say no.
Simply because we can't build ourselves out of the situation by incarcerating thousands of people. This country is facing that dilemma right now, statewide, locally, statewide, and nationally. We're locking up record numbers of people.
Prisons are designed not only to punish, but also to rehabilitate. But experts say that's an almost impossible goal.
The reality is that prison is the most violent culture that we have within our culture. If we think we live on violent streets, take a walk in St. Cloud or Stillwater. It's a very violent culture, and these folks come out of that culture back into society.
Nyquist believes more rehabilitation can be done after the prisoners are released. But perhaps the most effective solution is prevention.
And we're reacting to things after they happen. We have to
accelerate our efforts to prevent them from happening. Clearly, putting more police on the streets is a good step.
Whether the answer is more police, more prisons, or more preventative education, one thing is clear: taxpayers will have to pay for the change they're demanding. In Duluth, Stephanie Guadian, News 6.
Thank you, Stephanie. We are at what they call the epicenter of the quake. This is the Northridge Meadows Apartments, and I want you to take a look at something you're going to find incredible. The building off to my left here is 12 feet shorter than the building over to the right. The earthquake flattened the first floor. The building on the right is 3 stories. The building on the left is now 2 stories, and that is the visual picture here is incredible. People here, their emotions are running very, very high to the point to where they're not talking. They're walking around stone-faced with no expressions on their face, going inside, picking up their belongings, trying to put their lives back together as best they can. The Red Cross has been here from the very beginning. They've put up signs in many languages. As you can see, the sign over to the right there is in English, and over to the left here, unless you move a little bit to the left, you'll see it in another language, also a Middle Eastern language, I believe that is. But they're reaching out to as many people as they can who are trying to put their lives back together. Now, people say fear is false evidence appearing real, but the evidence this morning about 4 o'clock or 3:20 this morning was very, very evident to my cameraman Les and myself. There were aftershocks, one up to 5.0 that struck this morning. So people are still very much living in fear and trying to just hang on and try to move on and living their lives. Someone that has helping them put their life back together is Marceline Rovano, who is from the Northland Red Cross, actually from Michigan Upper Peninsula. Marceline, tell me, what is the feeling of progress here you're seeing?
Well, people are very, very quiet, but Red Cross has brought our outreach people from Family Services, including an off-duty family service worker who's a therapist. And people are trying to put their lives back together and recover. And I think what I see here now is people are still in shock, but through the efforts of many volunteers, Red Cross alone has brought in over 5,000 people in the last week to try to help.
And many of those people are from the Northland area.
They're from all over the United States and the world. I've worked with Canadians, people from the Mexican Red Cross, a woman from Fairbanks, Alaska, and of course many, many Los Angeles County chapter Red Cross who are victims themselves. But they have just put on their hard hats and their Red Cross ID, left their homes and gone out to help others whom they think may be worse off than they are.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Now, we're going to have a profile this coming Thursday on an American Red Cross worker who is from the Sandstone area. She's an emergency medical technician for an ambulance company up in that part of the Northland. Linda Pfeiffer is her name. We'll be talking with her, and we'll have that story for you this coming Thursday with follow-up story with Sean Hill, the hockey player who now plays for the Anaheim Mighty Ducks on Friday. This is Chip Wallace in Los Angeles. Stephanie, back to you. That's
You're supposed to be impartial, not for or against a lot of stuff. And so many people I see on TV.
Normally this time of year it should be dead, but because of the hysteria since they signed the Brady Bill, Thanksgiving week, its business is about 3 times what it should be.
And then they say they make a mistake, newspapers. You're supposed to be impartial, not for or against a lot of stuff. And so many people I see on TV and in the newspapers, they don't know what they're.
5 senior police officers from the Superior Police Department want to retire. Combined, they have over 130 years of experience, but they're not happy and would like to move on.
I think if I were to get on TV and say that this was not a problem or not part of the reason for us wanting to leave, I'd be considered as a liar. It's part of the problem.
The part of the problem that the Superior City councilors will be concerned with is, will a buyout of the officers save taxpayers money? Well, that depends on who you talk to.
It is extremely clear that there is savings. It's just a question of how much.
I don't want any part of it. It's bad policy.
Finance Director Tim Nelson is against granting the officers early retirement because although he agrees money could be saved in this case, precedent will be set and the city could lose out in the long run.
But if we do it to the 5, and we do it to 5 more firemen, and we do it to 5 more policemen, and we do it to 40 more policemen and 200 other city employees, then there is no savings. None whatsoever.
Under a proposal sent to the City Council, the officers will be paid $15,000 each, in addition to the buyout of their contracts. The amount of savings the city would realize depends on when the officers would have retired on their own without the buyout. Some believe that would be in about 5 years, but again, it depends on who you talk to.
Their indications are that they would stay for several years.
I know for a fact the one isn't. He's going to leave. He's got a job.
Besides the dollars and cents, this issue has sparked controversy with many city employees, including Nelson.
Just what I was taught when I went through school and through graduate studies. I would never pay anybody for being a bad employee.
In Superior, Ted Rollins, News 6.
You have to remember that I try to do it.
He told us to meet him down at the parking lot across from Electric Fetus. We picked him up there. I had to stop at this residence around here to pick up a set of keys from a friend. And next thing I know, Sarah comes running in saying, Sylvester is taking off with your car.
We are going to be working with the sheriff and looking at changing our operating procedures to make sure that we don't have a reoccurrence.
Persons who had that type of a claim, that is a latent defect, disease, or injury from the spill, would be able to file claims in that class for, between now for 20 years. We're going to hold that open for the next 20 years. You going back to Haifa? Yeah. I've got a cousin to Israel. Became so enamored with the place. The 73 Yom Kippur War. No, I was born and raised here. And we're Jewish.
It's at sessions like this one where Superior residents are being told their continued support of Duluth medical centers will force Superior Memorial Hospital to close. City officials say the next 10 months will be critical for the hospital's survival.
And, you know, financially, hospitals need to run like a business, and the bottom line has to at least be even for hospitals to keep operating.
In the case of Superior Memorial, 4 more patients a day would spell the difference. Meetings like this one are aimed at getting the message out that without continued support, more than 200 hospital jobs will be lost in the fight with Minnesota for health care services. In Superior, Duke Scorich, News 6.
Well, if they have a cheaper supply of pellets, and if whoever they're getting them from, I think it's only appropriate that they would give this information to the local union who they are trying to bargain with or should be bargaining with in good faith.
So you're just asking for a little proof?
We're asking for a little bit of proof. We also want to, at this time, make
Where do you think they're going to be buying from? Well, in South America?
Well, they told us that they...
And here's the green flag on her off. Down the back straightaway, power on the inside now. Esposito hanging on, Hanson. Moving to the outside and power trying to move up on the Esposito the leader on sled number 5 and Wayne Hanson in second place. Tyler Milton. Milton coming in the line. Third and second place. And third place.
I think that's the primary thing I'd look at. In addition, that's how it would work. That's how you get. Well, I know I have some sympathy for that position. I know what you crime is very serious. That may be enough, but I think what we're. If there are no more questions.
We need mandatory minimum sentences for felonies. We need truth in sentencing. That is, if you're sentenced to 10 years, you serve 10 years. You don't serve 2 years or something like that.
In August of '93, on August 31st, there were 46 children turned away from Duluth shelters because there was not enough space for them. 46, and there were already 83 in the shelters. That's a lot of kids on one day that don't have a home. And where do they go after that? Lead-based housing hazards are a real important issue for children, one of the most compelling problems and conditions of housing, because especially for children under 6, they can have some really lasting developmental effects.
during the day, and they could watch the children at night and so on.
Who do you expect to apply for these?
And what is their commitment to a people and to a state? With National Taconite, you have all their key decision makers living in Indiana or Tokyo. With Fingerhut, you have their top CEO living in Minnesota, Mr. Deichel. And in my mind, that is the key difference between two companies and really what has been the major economic problem for decades on the Iron Range.
Well, we thank you very much for coming. It is an exciting day, not just for Evelyn, but for the whole. How many employees does Fingerhut have in the state of Minnesota?
I would have a different kind of campaign, a populist campaign, not with a lot of money, but I think with a message to the middle and low-income people in this state that things can be better, that we can get better jobs, that we can protect our environment, that we can have better education for our kids, and it doesn't take $1 million to do that. I think I can do that.
The governor's blowing smoke and he knows it. We're paying for education with the wrong tax. It is a homeowner's responsibility to pay for services that are associated with their home. Education is a state and constitutional, moral and a constitutional obligation.
With the differential in temperature between that fire going and the cold temperature that it was before that, the pipe did rupture, and now we had the gas that was venting up in that roof space.
It's really, in my mind, very scary about some of the things that have been going on with Express. I don't think they have practiced the kind of safety records and procedures that Mesaba Airlines has. Mesaba has a lot of roots in northern Minnesota, and I know I won't fly on that airline anymore, and I know a lot of my constituents won't. So I'm going to make it a big effort to try to change carriers into Duluth and Hibbing.
Business. Yeah, to get your name out in front of the public mostly. It gives something for the people to look at where they can see firsthand and talk to the owners and get a feel if this is the type of vacation they really want to take.
do that because I truly believe that Washington is out of touch, that they don't understand how the real world works.
Wisconsin State Treasurer Kate Zeiske, along with lawyer Tom Fitzpatrick and State Assemblyman Bob Welsh, are hot on the Senate campaign trail. Today's stop was at the Elks Club in Ashland, time allowed only for 2 issues to be discussed: foreign affairs and health care reform.
I think Clinton's plan is, first of all, too costly. We cannot afford it because it will add to the deficit. Secondly, it's too risky. He's essentially proposing that the government take over 1/7 of the economy, and if it doesn't work, we're in real trouble.
We're told that for small businesses, which they want to mandate onto businesses to pick up the costs for all their employees, that for small employees, for low-income individuals, they're going to subsidize. Well, where's that money going to come from?
We have problems in terms of cost, and we have problems in terms of insurance availability. Those 2 problems can be solved with some relatively little things, relatively compared to reinventing the whole thing and having government take it over, that is.
This constituency was comprised of about 50 residents, most hailing from Douglas, Ashland, and Iron counties. Missing from today's forum was Matt Gunderson. He's in Lillehammer, Norway, working the Olympics.
The next political stop for these Senate hopefuls is the district caucus on April the 9th. If you don't know where your political party will be caucusing, contact your county auditor or your political party headquarters. In Ashland, Chip Wallace, News 6.
Child care, and then we have to have jobs. And I have some real reservations, although I think our goal should be 2 years, and then you get your training and your health care, and then to a job. But that'll be very difficult in northeastern Minnesota because of the shortage of employment already. And unless there's a public sector component to that program, it won't work. But I think we should try to make it work.
This F-16 is one of 20 fighter jets the Minnesota Air National Guard may have to fly without. The Pentagon told the Guard, along with other branches of the military, their budgets are going to be cut.
We have been told we're going to lose 15 full-time positions. We've already counteracted that by not filling full-time jobs, by putting temporary people on. And through the retirements that are going to occur over the next year, we'll be able to absorb the cuts that are coming.
Another area for concern because of budget cuts is recruiting. Many career-minded people use the military as a vehicle to enhance their long-term goals. Some may ask, is this still a viable option?
Oh, absolutely. As I was saying before, it's even more so today than it was before.
Sergeant Ted Swanson is a recruiting officer in the Air Force. He says the cutbacks are as low as they're going to get.
The trend that's going downward has to stop someplace, and right now it's been said that it's going to stop at 1.4 million. President Clinton, in his State of the Nation address, said defense will be cut no further.
A spokesperson for the Army Reserve says over 2,000 jobs in Minnesota will be cut by this October. The Army is trying to relocate these people. Those laid off will still be eligible for GI benefits. In Duluth, Chip Wallace, News 6.
Here in Providence, there's light rain after heavy rain early this morning and 5 to 6 inches of heavy pelting snow. Despite this precipitation, it's pretty miserable out here. You know, March is coming in like a lion. We can only hope it goes out like a lamb. This is winter storm number 15, and when severe storms hit in March, when half the country is enjoying spring weather, it can be depressing.
I had enough snow for this winter.
In Virginia, there is 10 inches of snow on the ground, and downed trees have left more than 150,000 people without electricity. In Ocean City, New Jersey, 60-mile-an-hour winds and strong surf have pounded the area, bringing a combination of blowing snow and sand. Throughout the coastal areas from the Carolinas to Maine, the high winds are causing floods and erosion, leaving a path of debris. The bad weather is also being blamed for the accident of this Continental jet, which slid off the runway into a dike last night in New York. But the worst appears to be in the hard-hit snow areas of the Northeast, as March is proving to be just as rough as January and February. You would think that this light rain is a heavenly change from the heavy snow we had earlier, but there's a lot of wind out here and it's still pretty unbearable. Behind me is the Providence skyline, and you can see it a little bit better now as visibility gains a little clearer. Reporting from Providence, I'm Rondella Richardson. Back to you.
Okay, well, I didn't know whether that was going to be...
Yeah, that will be occurring over the next 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
To meet the challenge. Long-term care is moving out of the era where we were custodial in nature, where we provided housing for people, and we're now moving into the era where we're going to be providing services for the chronically disabled, for the people who need short-term rehabilitation, for those people who need an intermediary step between the hospital stay and then moving back into their home environment.
Try to put them together, to pull them together into one easy to access program or a series of programs so people don't have to keep applying at different places or moving from one spot to another. So we have the job service managers from around the state, and we also have the meeting today is one of a series. It's the second statewide meeting, but at the local level.
Did it bleed a lot?
Yeah.
When Cordarius fell and cut his head, his mom had to decide what to do. Did you think that it needed stitches?
Yeah.
How do you know?
Because the gash was open so wide, you know, and I could see the white meat, so.
She's right, but the first thing you do when your child gets cut is to apply pressure to stop the bleeding. Then you can look at it. If it was close together like that, then you wouldn't bring him to the hospital. But then what you need to do is pull it a little bit, and if it opens up that far, then you ought to bring him. And if it opens up like Quadarius's does, then obviously you have to bring him. When you get to the hospital, you'll have to register, have your child's vital signs checked, and give a quick health history before we get started. Quadarius is now numbed up, so he doesn't feel any pain, right, Quadarius? By using a special small curved needle and thread similar to fishing line, the skin is brought back together so it can heal. Are you ready, Quadarius?
Yeah.
Can you give us a big smile? Ta-da! Give me 5 and you're out of here, right? High five? A few days later, Quidarius comes back to have his stitches removed. It's painless. There'd be a little scar there. Mom will be able to see it, but I would bet that by the time you get out in a couple of years, your girlfriend won't be able to see it. Okay, give us a big smile now. All right. I'm Dr. Cardin Johnston for NBC News.
What we heard at public hearing after public hearing after public hearing was that people along this river and who've used this river for years just don't want to see it change. So the plan pretty much addresses that. You won't see many changes.
Position, Pat Solberg, and then T.C. Brandt.
That we need a certain amount of space in the school. Under those guys.
Escort him in between classes.
The school district will escort the student between classes until a final determination is made with respect to this student.